Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. As you can see, we have a Glock 17 on the table and the Timney Triggers Alpha Glock Alpha Competition Series trigger for Gen 3 and 4. Now this installs a little differently than a regular Glock trigger, so I thought I would make a video showing how it installs. I watched a couple of them. One was not bad, the other was not great. I'm going to try and get you a little closer up view of it and get you some pictures so you can see where that trigger return spring goes in. So first of all, we are clear. And of course, breaking down a Glock is easy. Pull back a little bit, pull your lever down, just like that, comes apart. So we're not doing anything with the slide, so we can take that, put that over there. The Glock breaks down pretty simple. You push out your trigger housing pin, push out our locking block pin, and to get the trigger pin out, you gotta kind of play with it here. Move this back and forth is easiest for me, and then we can push that right out. Now there we go, we've got our slide stop lever there. We've got our locking block here, which we're going to pull up. We're going to take that out because when we put the trigger in, we're going to have to get the trigger return spring back behind here. And then of course we just pull out our trigger and the trigger housing here. So the first thing we're going to do is take our trigger and trigger bar out of here, and we are going to leave the spring on it because we don't use that spring in the new one. There is our trigger that was in there and our trigger spring. We're not going to need either of those. Alright, now here are all our parts for the trigger install. We have our receiver here. We have, of course, our trigger and trigger bar. We have two different springs. The silver is for stock connectors, the red is for the aftermarket connectors. Then we have our tools that Timney supplied in the kit. Now the first thing I did here was I loosened up this screw a little bit, and then I'm going to put it in the trigger housing here and push that down, and then you can see that we have a little bit of space there. I'd probably screw that out just a little bit more. And this little piece goes in right there. You can see now that it's down, it's got the screw out there, and then we just tighten that down and snug it up so that your receiver stays in your trigger housing. So our trigger housing is put together. Then we just take our trigger and just like normal, put it back here. And then this will go into the Glock. Now, the thing about these that nobody was really showing very well is that your trigger return spring goes on this little protrusion here. So once we get the trigger in, we're going to put this in, and then this actually interacts with your locking block. So just like normal on a Glock, we got our trigger in. There we go. So that sits on your trigger like that. Now when we put that in, as you can see, we're out here like this. And we're going to take our locking block, and what we're going to do is put that in about halfway, and then we're going to push from the other side here to that spring so that we're behind the locking block, and then we can lower our locking block down. So as you can see, that will give us tension on our trigger return spring once we get it all set up. As far as putting it back together, we've got our trigger housing pin simply goes in, push in there, and now our trigger housing pin is in. We've got our locking block pin. So again, we're going to take this because we want to be behind that locking block. So we're actually going to pull this down and then set that pin. So as you can see, we are still behind the locking block, behind the locking block pin. That's going to give us our tension for the trigger return spring. I'm going to take these, I'm going to take this, it's got a little flat head on it. I'm going to try and get that back over so that that is on top of our trigger. And you can see how we've got tension on that spring on both ends. I'm going to push this back over so we're tight on there, because we still have to put in our slide stop. And you want to make sure that you're on the left side of that trigger return spring. Now see, it's moved over on me here. So I'm going to take my little flathead, push that back over. Put my slide stop in, try and get it. Put that in there, try and get that. There, it should be through my slide stop, through the trigger, give it a little tap, and we're back together. I'm going to take this, set that locking block pin, got my trigger pin, I just felt it snap in on that. As you can see, there is our return spring, our trigger return spring. It is there, and it is down here on the trigger. So we're going to put slide back on, check functionality, and then we should be good. So there it is. There's our trigger. Nice return on there. And there we go. There is the Alpha Glock competition trigger installed in the Glock 17. Now we're going to get out there and put some rounds through this thing. I haven't shot this one at all other than doing the video the other day without any sights on it. So now we've got the Swamp Fox on it, we've got sights on it, we've got a new trigger in there. Going to get out to the range and test this out. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the video. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that button up there. If you'd like to see another video from me, hit that button over there. If you want to see something from one of my friends, Gizzard Gary, Sergeant C4 Defense, or the Gun Snob, or perhaps a playlist from all the hens, hit that button up there.